discover the incredible journey of a transgender boy emperor who transformed Rome forever. Alex's heart raced as he mounted the stage, the polished artifact clutched tightly in his hand. It wasn't merely a tarnished coin. It was a symbol of transformation, a link to a forgotten past that screamed for recognition, just like him. With every breath, the air thickened with uncertainty, shaking the confidence he'd built through endless hours spent in tech-ridden nights at the library. The weight of his history pressed down on his shoulders, a potent reminder that to step into the light was to invite scrutiny. Would they see his genius, or would they only see Alexis' shadow looming behind? Before him sat the classroom, faces that blended indifference with condescension. He had fought against those glares, enduring the snickers and jests, transforming himself from Alexis into Alex, a name that felt truer, yet still tangled in whispers of doubt. Each moment on that stage felt like a duel, his voice a sword of conviction he hoped would cut through the prejudice, yet just as quickly could shatter from the piercing negativity. Is today the day I finally find my authority? He questioned silently, on the precipice of vulnerability and hope. But would his narrative of resilience be buried like countless others in history if he faltered now? The arcane world of ancient Rome and its forgotten emperors danced in his mind, a comforting refuge, yet also a haunting reminder of his own plight. The stories that had once inspired him also felt like chains, binding him to expectations that he thought he had broken free from. The clock ticked relentlessly, unsettling his calm. He glanced toward Emma, the sparkling star of privilege whose focused brilliance was not only admired but favored. She had charm, connections, the resources that amplified her voice while his own sometimes struggled to be heard over the chaos of adolescence. An endless war waged in him, the determination to rise above versus the fear of perpetually lingering in her shadow. Each glance at her attention-grabbing smile twisted the knife of doubt deeper. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With his heart thrumming, Alex inhaled sharply, attempting to gather strength from the depths of history that ran through his veins. He wanted to address the struggles of an emperor who surmounted obstacles, who transformed through adversity, someone who faced dissent yet emerged triumphantly. Can my truth be as powerful as his? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. As he stood, the brimming doubts began to crack the foundation he was building beneath his feet. In that suspended moment, everything blurred. The audience faded, replaced by the weight of his fears. Would they listen? Would they respect him as an emerging historian instead of reducing him to a caricature of vulnerability? He licked his dry lips before plunging into the unknown, fully aware that the echoes of those judgments were louder than his own voice. And as he looked at Emma once more, the spotlight didn't just illuminate the path ahead. It darkened the room, leaving him cloaked in uncertainty, battling against the history he longed to rewrite and the identity that begged for acceptance. The moment Alex opened his mouth, a hush fell over the room. The silence seemed to stretch infinitely. His heart thundered at a frequency that drowned out even the ticking clock. He focused on the worn edges of the coin in his hand, tracing its contours as if the grooves could deliver him confidence. A part of him propelled forward, his ambition roaring to escape from the recesses of his mind. Yet another part shrank back, crippled by the polarizing emotions of doubt and vulnerability. Today, I want to talk about unrecognized leaders in history. He began, his voice steadier than he felt, like the boy emperor who changed Rome. With each sentence, he conjured images of ancient triumphs, the failures, and inevitable resilience woven into the fabric of those who fought against all odds. Eyes that previously lacked interest began to shift. Alex took a moment to survey the engagement, locking eyes with a few skeptics who once wore frowns of disbelief, now cautiously attentive. It fueled him, lifting the heavy fog of anxiety. People were listening, weren't they? This coin, he thrust it slightly forward, reminds us that history is not linear. It's a patchwork of narratives. Figures that may be forgotten or misunderstood can still forge paths of transformation. He could feel the energy shifting, allowing new hope to flutter inside him. Each word felt like a stitch in the vast tapestry he hoped to create, an illustration of his own narrative intertwined with those of the forgotten. As he spoke, Alex's confidence climbed. He dared to uncover a side of himself that had long lain dormant, a loud voice rallying against dismissal, a force that yearned to tell a story not just for himself, but for all those struggling under the weight of muted existences. The room seemed less like a battleground and more like a canvas, with each sentence a brushstroke, painting an image of resilience threaded with vulnerability. Yet, lingering offstage, Emma observed. Her presence was magnetic, drawing attention effortlessly. Alex felt her gaze as a soft but insistent pressure, the reminder of everything he feared, the stark reality of competition. He rebuffed the impulse to glance back at her directly, channeling the rising tide of his burgeoning self-acceptance. Suddenly, a question erupted from a previously silent corner of the room. But why does it matter? Isn't this just a romanticized narrative? The voice was familiar, belonging to Sarah, a classmate known for her sharp tongue and sharp opinions. The challenge turned the air electric, and Alex felt the entire classroom lean in, curious. This was the moment. He could crumple under pressure or rise with resolve. The coin that had initiated his quest for power and recognition echoed in his mind. He realized this exchange was part of his journey too. It matters, he replied firmly, finding solace in the gravity of his words. Because we all fight for acknowledgement. Just like those lost emperors, our stories deserve to be told. Our truths deserve respect. There's power in history, and it's time we claim it. Each syllable was a declaration, a demand for validation that reverberated through the walls of the classroom. The challenge re-energized Alex. He sensed not just eyes upon him, but a collective heartbeat. Perhaps this moment was not merely about facing Emma or Sarah, but about confronting his past self, the Alexis that languished quietly, waiting to be recognized. But as the bell rang, marking the end of his presentation, a new wave of anxiety crashed over him. The smiles and nods wooed to erase the lingering questions that loomed about who he was destined to become. Had he made his mark, or was this just the beginning? Determined to find out, Alex stepped off stage, his heart still racing with a mixture of hope and fear. Was history truly on his side? He took a deep breath, realization dawning that he had swung open the door to a new chapter in his life. The question pressed at him, leaving him restless. What challenges lay ahead in the journey to redefine himself? Stepping into the hallway, the buzz of chatter surrounded Alex like an unfamiliar soundscape. He felt the lingering edge of adrenaline, a warm flush that coursed through his veins. There was exhilaration, the thrill of being seen, but overshadowing that was an impending dread lurking beneath the surface. What if his moment of triumph was fleeting? Would he be the boy who spoke well that day, only to retreat into silence tomorrow? Emma drifted by, her laughter trailing like the scent of perfume, and despite his newfound clarity, Alex's resolve wavered. He realized then that this was not merely about impressing classmates or even gaining recognition. It was about claiming his narrative in a world where he felt perpetually overshadowed. The urge to speak his truth clashed violently with the instinct to withdraw, retreat into the shadows where it felt safer. As he ambled through the crowded corridor, Alex sought a familiar sanctuary, his worn journal, its pages filled with restless thoughts and ideas that flowed better when penned by hand. Each entry was a step toward understanding himself, an act of devotion to his own journey. Heading to the library, he hoped to find clarity amid the stacks of books that had always felt comforting. Once nestled into his spot at the long table, he unfolded the pages, revealing reflections on his insecurities and dreams of speaking out. The insights he wrote were profound, but reality seemed to taunt him with uncertainty. The shadows of doubt whispered, "What if nobody reads this?" Instead of allowing himself to spiral down, Alex decided to challenge that internal narrative. So, he wrote harder, pouring out his ambitions and frustrations as if he were laying his story bare for the world to see. Just then, a memory flared to life, a conversation with Mrs. Thompson, his history teacher. She had once said, "Each of us has the power to reshape narratives. It's about claiming the pen." Realizing he was simultaneously the author and the protagonist of his life narrative ignited a spark within him. Perhaps it was time to push beyond the scripted lines he had once resigned himself to. Hours rolled into another chapter of deliberate self-reflection until Alex's fingers paused, hovering over the paper. He hesitated, struck by the contrast between his voice on the page and the silence he often held in person. Was he ready to elevate his voice, not just in writing, but in life? Holding the coin from earlier, he drew strength from his new realization. It was not enough to tell stories. He must embrace his own to shape the future he desired. That night, Alex made a decision. With his heart thrumming slightly out of rhythm, he resolved to speak more openly, not just in classroom debates, but in everyday conversations. He would confront Emma and Sarah not in anger, but with a desire to connect beyond the competitive facade they often wore. He acknowledged the discomfort it would bring, yet he also understood its necessity. The narratives of his life thrummed louder than the doubts, demanding to be told. With that conviction fusing with his growing confidence, he fell asleep clutching the journal, as if it were a lifeline to a more assertive version of himself. He dreamed of unfolding stories that weren't just his own, but were shared experiences of vulnerability, battles, and triumph. But as the dawn broke, accompanied by new challenges, Alex awoke to the reality of the school day ahead. How would he confront those intimidating conversations? The anticipation loomed like a storm, unknown, yet crucial to his journey of self-discovery and personal empowerment. What awaited him in those halls? Would they embrace his vulnerability or dismiss it? The stakes were becoming personal. It was time to discover how far his voice could reach. Stepping into the school's bustling environment, Alex felt like a tightrope walker balancing between exhilaration and trepidation. The previous day's victory fueled a flickering flame of confidence, yet the weight of unspoken words loomed heavily over his shoulders. Today was set to be different. Today, he would reach out. But the anxiety tinged the air with a sense of foreboding. Walking toward his locker, he noticed Emma and Sarah at the end of the corridor, animatedly chatting, their expressions a mix of amusement and curiosity. A flash of vulnerability pierced through him, but as he approached, he halted, taking a deep breath. What if the confrontation led to deeper connections? What if he could dismantle the walls their competitive nature had built? He recalled the warmth in Mrs. Thompson's voice, encouraging him to seize control of his narrative. That thought propelled him forward, yet with each step, doubt lingered. Would they dismiss him as irrelevant? Would they mock his effort to connect? The possibility of rejection clawed at his insides. Still, he pressed on, resolving to unlock the door to authentic engagement. "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" he called out, his voice firm yet shaking. Emma turned, eyes widening in surprise, her laughter fading as she motioned for Sarah to join. The two of them stepped closer, curious but guarded. In that moment, a jarring silence settled, thick as fog. Alex could feel the rush of adrenaline pairing with the fervor of his resolve. This was his moment to reclaim his narrative. I've been thinking," Alex started, the words tumbling out unrefined but earnest. "I really want to know more about you both. I feel like there's a lot we don't share beyond the usual stuff." He paused, feeling vulnerable and exposed. "I can't help but think we're all kind of a little lonely in our own ways. I just thought maybe talking could help." There was a beat of hesitation before Sarah spoke. "Are you trying to say you want to be friends?" The question hung in the air, precluding any assumptions. "Yeah," he managed, feeling a mix of relief and raw, naked honesty wash over him. "In a way, I guess I am." Emma shared a fleeting glance with Sarah before folding her arms, brow slightly raised. "That's different. But why would you want to do that?" He sucked in a breath, knowing this was the crux of his courage. "Honestly, I'm tired of not being true to myself. I want to engage, not just be in competition. Your feedback and experiences could help me, and I believe I could share something worthwhile, too." As the words spilled forth, Alex felt something stir within him, an ember of bravery igniting. He had opened a door, though the darkness beyond remained uncharted. Emma's guarded facade cracked a little, her curiosity piqued. "I suppose talking wouldn't hurt," she admitted, her tone lighter. "But if we do this, it needs to be genuine." With that, they agreed to meet during lunch, a tentative pact formed in the shadows of their insecurities. As Alex walked away, a newfound sense of lightness began to settle over him. This was merely the beginning of a journey laden with unexpected turns. He could feel the stirring of potential connections charging through him. Perhaps the narrative he longed to craft was only just starting to emerge, but the day was still young, and as he entered the next class, he noticed the ever-watchful eyes of his peers. Could he maintain this momentum? Would he have the resilience to carve out his narrative amid the judgment? As he sat down, his heart raced again, not with fear, but with the exhilarating possibility of what might come next. It would require more than just words. He would have to act, embody the confidence he sought to claim. The stakes had shifted, and soon he would face his greatest challenge, yet an unexpected confrontation that would test the very foundation of his newly forged resolve. As the lunch bell rang, Alex felt his stomach twist nervously. He had promised himself a new chapter, but now the prospect of that meeting loomed before him like the towering walls of an ancient fortress. He needed to prove to himself that he was capable of connection, of vulnerability, and that he could triumph over the self-doubt that lingered just beneath the surface. Taking measured steps toward the cafeteria, he replayed his intentions like a mantra. This wasn't just about making friends. It was about dismantling the fortress of isolation he had built around himself. Over the last few months, he had seen the world through a lens tinged with competition. But today, he wanted to shift that perspective. He wanted to see unity instead of rivalry. Upon entering the cafeteria, the energy felt palpable. Laughter and chatter surrounded him like a dynamic orchestra. Each voice formed a note contributing to a grand symphony of adolescence. He spotted Emma and Sarah at their usual table, their demeanor more inviting than he had anticipated. They were animatedly discussing a recent movie, and he could hardly suppress the grin that emerged. One step at a time, he reminded himself. "Hey, guys," he greeted, tentatively sitting down beside them. His confidence was a fragile thing, but he vowed not to let it dwindle. "Hey, Alex, we're just talking about the Misfits. Have you seen it?" Emma asked, her tone genuine. Even if the curiosity still lingered, but he could still engage. "No, but I heard it has a great soundtrack. Is it worth watching?" As the conversation flowed, Alex allowed himself to relax, finding comfort in their shared laughter and views. They spoke candidly about their favorite scenes and relatable characters, and for a moment, the heaviness that had clung to him began to disperse. He felt the need to contribute something deeper, though. He had initiated this gathering. It was time to honor that commitment to authenticity. So he started, his heart beating loudly against his rib cage. "I really appreciate us getting together and just talking freely. I know that sometimes it's easier to see each other as competition or rivals. But I want you both to know that I'm willing to be more real with you, if you'd have me." A brief silence hung in the air, and for a moment, Alex thought he had miscalculated. Emma exchanged a glance with Sarah, and Alex's stomach churned with apprehension. Emma finally spoke, her voice softer now. "I think that's actually a really brave thing to say. We do get caught up in that rivalry sometimes. But I'm interested in hearing more about you." "So am I," Sarah added, her expression more relaxed than before. "We all have our own struggles, right?" Alex felt the tide shifting. Here he was, surrounded by kindred spirits who also experienced struggles, perhaps even loneliness. They were dissecting layers he had previously believed set them apart. It was a pivotal moment, a revelation that deep connections were born from honesty. "I guess I've been questioning who I really want to be too," he admitted, almost surprised at his own candor. "I want to be known for more than just my grades or how I compare to others." The conversation thrummed with intensity, each revelation serving as a stepping stone toward greater authenticity. Ideas floated around the table, each one sparking deeper discussions about their hopes, fears, and aspirations. They shared moments of vulnerability, each story weaving tightly into a new tapestry of camaraderie. But just as Alex felt the warmth of budding friendships envelop him, he noticed Aaron, the school's notorious bully, entering the cafeteria with a distracted, mocking glance. The confidence he had managed to build crumbled under the weight of that familiar dread. Would Aaron's presence shatter this tentative alliance before it could solidify? Caught in the whirlwind of his thoughts, Alex felt the environment shift once more. Was he willing to confront the looming threat that had haunted him for so long? The moment of truth was approaching, and the stakes were climbing higher. Could he remain steadfast in his quest for meaningful connection, even in the face of disapproval? Alex took a deep breath and steeled himself. It was time to rise and face whatever challenge lay ahead. But would he find the courage needed to stand firm against external judgment? The question lingered as tension brewed in the air. The tension in the cafeteria thickened as Aaron sauntered closer, the confidence that Alex had pulled together moments ago slipping like sand through his fingers. He sensed the subtle shift in atmosphere. Laughter faded, eyes darted, and the once relaxed camaraderie around the table dwindled. Alex felt an instinctive urge to retreat, to shield himself from the inevitable confrontation. But he reminded himself of his commitment, vulnerability and connection over fear. Emma and Sarah continued their conversation, oblivious to the invisible fracture occurring in the room, but a bead of sweat trickled down Alex's forehead. The awareness that Aaron's gaze was now locked onto him crystallized the imminent conflict. He could almost hear his own pulse steady yet anxious as if it drummed a warning. "Look who we have here." Aaron's voice rang out, dripping with contempt as he positioned himself nearby. His smirk was a familiar taunt, one that had echoed through many hallways before. Alex's instinctive response was to shrink back, to hide within himself, but a flicker of resolve emerged from the shadows of his apprehension. He glanced at Emma and Sarah. They, too, had noticed Aaron, their expressions shifting from surprise to concern. This was his moment. This was when he had to choose. Would he allow Aaron's old narratives to dictate his story, or would he pen a new chapter in the face of adversity? "Hey, Aaron," Alex replied, forcing the words through a constricted throat. He could feel his fingers twitch, a physical manifestation of his turmoil, but also a sign that he was grappling for control. "What's up?" The bully's mocking laughter resonated through the cafeteria, drawing attention to the two of them. "Oh, just enjoying the view of some wannabes trying too hard to connect." Pathetic. The word hung in the air, a sharp dagger of shame aimed directly at Alex's burgeoning confidence. He looked down at his hands, their tension betraying his emotional state. But in that moment of vulnerability, he felt the warmth of solidarity from Emma's hand brushing against his arm. It was a gentle reminder that he was no longer alone in this battle. "Maybe you should try connecting too, Aaron," Sarah interjected, unwavering but fierce. "It beats being a bully any day. Don't you get tired of it?" Stunned silence followed her words. Alex's heart flickered with hope. She was standing up, grasping the very essence of what he sought, a united front against negativity. He understood something crucial, then he could cultivate connections, not just by initiating vulnerability himself, but by recognizing the strength of others when they stood beside him. The mask Aaron wore cracked momentarily. He shifted on his feet, caught off guard by their combined courage. "Whatever. You two are just losers, and you can't change that," he spat, but his eyes glinted with uncertainty. He turned, trying to extricate himself from their defiant presence, and the sound of his retreat felt, in that instant, like a victory bell for Alex. As this confrontation unfolded, a deeper understanding emerged within him. The stakes had shifted. He was no longer only fighting for his own dignity, but forging a part of a fabric that bound him to Emma and Sarah. They were not just friends. They were allies, comrades in their own right. This realization ignited a fire in his chest, a burgeoning sense of empowerment. "I'm not a loser," Alex murmured, loud enough for the trio to hear as Aaron faded into the crowd. Emma and Sarah smiled at him, their eyes bright with understanding and approval. "Exactly," Emma said, her tone lightening the air. "You're not alone, Alex. We've got your back." Reinvigorated, Alex felt something shift within. This wasn't merely a small victory over a bully. It was a fundamental breakthrough for him. Could he dare to believe that challenges would confront not just his individuality, but propel their collective strength forward? But even as he reveled in this newfound camaraderie, Alex felt a nagging thought persist at the back of his mind. Would they be able to sustain this connection against future tides of conflict? Or would Aaron, hardened by cruelty, return with an even fiercer aggression? He took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that the confrontation had only just begun. What awaited him around the corner? Could this alliance withstand the real test ahead? The lines were drawn, and he was about to find out. As the cafeteria buzzed back to life, Alex's pulse gradually slowed. The spell of confrontation had evaporated, replaced by the comforting laughter of Emma and Sarah. Yet, A tight knot of anticipation remained in his stomach. This small victory felt hollow if it couldn't be maintained, and looming questions hovered over his mind like specters. What do you think he'll do next? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, betraying the concern that tightened his throat. Emma, her expression serious, tapped her chin thoughtfully. I don't know. Aaron is a coward. He'll try to find a way to retaliate, but we can't let him target us like that. Alex nodded, heart racing as he considered the implications. His growing circle of support was invigorating, but it also brought a new weight: the need to protect that bond. Emma's confidence in confronting Aaron only fueled Alex's desire to stand tall. I liked how you both handled him, Alex admitted, trying to muster a semblance of bravery. It felt good to have support. He felt compelled to acknowledge their courage. It transformed that encounter from a moment of isolation into one of collaboration. Sarah leaned forward, an encouraging smile on her face. You are brave, Alex. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, even with us by your side. We'll keep having each other's backs, no matter what happens. But you have to promise to let us in, too. Letting others in. The phrase hit him like a tidal wave. He had long built walls around his vulnerabilities, fearing jokes and dismissals, concealing his true self. The more he allowed Emma and Sarah to see him, the more he risked their potential disappointment. And yet, how could they truly stand as allies if he didn't open up about his fears and thoughts? Okay, he said softly, the word resonating with his desire for honesty. I'll try, but I don't know how. The important thing, Emma said, is to be authentic. Just share as much or as little as you're comfortable with. We're here to listen. You don't have to change who you are. Alex contemplated her words, swirling in a whirlpool of clarity and confusion. Authenticity. He had always believed in the notion but had struggled to actualize it. With Aaron's presence looming large, he wondered whether authenticity would be powerful enough to shield him. The bell rang suddenly, signaling the end of their lunch break, and they began to gather their things. Unexpectedly, Alex felt a flicker of apprehension, akin to standing at the edge of a cliff. He was about to embrace the challenge of being seen, a leap into the unknown as they walked toward the exit. A sudden flash of doubt clouded his mind. Would exposing himself to Emma and Sarah mean exposing himself to ridicule as well? Could this plunge into vulnerability bring about rejection instead of acceptance? With each step, these questions became heavier, each nearly immovable until he reached outside and caught sight of Aaron leaning against the wall. The bully was flanked by a few other students, all laughing and glancing in their direction. The surge of fear coursed through Alex, an electric jolt igniting the instincts to shy away. But there was also a new voice emerging, sharper and more resolute, echoing with the promise of support at his back. Let us just keep walking, Emma whispered, squeezing his arm. And as they advanced, Alex's mind blended anticipation, anxiety, and determination. Today was not just about surviving Aaron. It was about affirming each step in the journey toward becoming the truest version of himself. But could mere camaraderie truly withstand Aaron's inevitable return? The crucial test awaited just ahead, and the stakes had never been higher. What moved him beyond this moment? The battle was only beginning, and Alex had no idea of the intensity looming on the horizon. The air felt thick with unspoken tension as Alex stepped outside with Emma and Sarah. Aaron's laughter echoed through the corridor, a mocking reminder of the encounter that had just taken place days before. In that moment, Alex's resolve flickered. He had felt solid in their support, but now, facing the bully again, a shroud of doubt enveloped him. Would his intent to be authentic crumble under the weight of fear? Stay close, Sarah said, breaking Alex's trance. Her voice was steady, and the grounding effect of her presence instilled a flicker of courage within him. It became a moment of unified strength as they walked toward their next class, side by side. Yet, Alex's mind raced. The walls in his heart seemed to constrict around him, and he wrestled with the urge to retreat. As they entered the classroom, Alex took a deep breath, mentally orchestrating a plan. Stepping into a more authentic self meant more than simply facing Aaron. It involved revealing the parts of himself that had been buried for too long. He had to grapple with the notion of capabilities and talents, hidden aspects waiting to emerge. What if there was an art project or a debate club that could unleash parts of him he had not yet explored? Service or leadership roles, perhaps? The teacher's voice drew him back to the present as she welcomed them to the session. Alex's heart raced with possibility as she announced an upcoming talent showcase, inviting students to share everything from artistic endeavors to spoken word performances. His mind took flight. This could be my chance, he thought. A chance not only to express himself, but also to showcase his strengths. But suddenly, the fear that had haunted him seeped back, and what if he failed? What if Aaron would see him again and exploit his vulnerabilities? But then he remembered Emma's words about authenticity. Could this showcase be a platform for true expression? As the lesson unfolded, Alex found himself scribbling down ideas, his thoughts flowing faster than he could write. The feelings of doubt battled against surges of inspiration. In that chaotic fierceness, something inside him sparked a realization that he didn't merely want to survive the present situation. He wanted to thrive. "Hey, Alex." Sarah's voice brought him back. "What are you thinking?" A vision of opening up to his friends rushed through his mind. Part of him hesitated, but another part itched to share. "Maybe I could try performing something," he murmured, uncertainty creeping in once more. "But what if it doesn't go well?" Emma leaned in closer, her eyes shimmering with encouragement. "We'll help you practice. Just think about what you want to express. It's about you, not Aaron." Beneath Sarah's smile and Emma's unwavering gaze, Alex felt a deeper pull towards vulnerability. Discussing a performance was a leap, yet being known for more than his struggles could pave the way to assert himself against Aaron. In that classroom filled with buzzing energy and anticipation, a surge of courage enveloped him like a warm embrace. After school, the three of them settled on the grassy field outside, where laughter from other students dotted the air. "So what is the plan?" Emma asked, pulling out a notebook while Alex chewed the inside of his cheek, a mix of excitement and fear prickling at the back of his mind. He took a breath, the sunlight filtering through the trees, illuminating his thoughts. "What if I wrote a piece about overcoming fears? About standing up for yourself, regardless of what others think? About sharing who I really am?" He hesitated, heart racing at the thought of putting everything into words, both terrifying and liberating. "Absolutely," Sarah cheered, her enthusiasm invigorating. "That is powerful. But would it truly be enough? Would his expression shield him against Aaron and the relentless bullying?" As he put pen to paper, the swirl of confidence and doubt danced in harmony. This was the very fabric of his self-discovery. Yet, each stroke of the pen felt heavy, underscoring the vulnerability involved in baring his soul. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the field, hinting at the darkness that always seemed to lurk around the corner. The time had come to face not just Aaron, but the fears that held him back, he thought, as he scribbled down the first line of the piece, trembling with a mix of exhilaration and dread. What awaited him at the showcase was uncertain, but within that uncertainty lay an undeniable thrill. And yet, the ominous shadow of Aaron loomed larger than ever in his mind. Would he risk it all on stage, knowing the backlash that might come? The realization that this showcase might be the pivotal moment in Alex's journey pressed heavily on his heart. Could he truly transform himself into the person he wanted to be? The days leading to the talent showcase bled into each other, a flurry of anxiety interspersed with moments of quiet determination. Each evening, Alex met with Emma and Sarah, sorting through ideas, refining his piece, and rhythmically rehearsing the words that were his lifeline. The process felt both exhilarating and daunting. Alex began to notice something shifting within him. The writing was no longer merely an outlet for his pain, but also a channel for his burgeoning strength. In the solitude of his room, the page lay before him, blank yet brimming with potential. He found himself continually adjusting his narrative, fine-tuning phrases to capture the nuances of his internal battle. His fingers trembled over the keyboard as each word brought him closer to a profound realization. His story was not solely about overcoming fear, but about embracing the entirety of who he was. Each draft folded in layers of identity, experiences, fears, and hopes. He began to feel a flicker of pride ignite within him. Emma and Sarah's unwavering support bolstered him. They offered critique and encouragement, coaxing out deeper elements he hadn't considered. "What about including moments when you stood up for others?" Emma suggested one evening. "It's powerful to show you're not just fighting for yourself, but for everyone who feels voiceless." The insight struck Alex. and he felt an electric surge of comprehension. It dawned on him that his journey transcended personal growth. It was also a call to arms for those around him. What had been an individual endeavor transformed into a collective awakening, one where courage didn't waver in the face of external noise. "You're right," he replied, a renewed vigor resounding in his voice. "This has to resonate not just with me, but with anyone who has felt trapped." As Alex delved deeper into his writing, the familiar shadow of doubt crept back. Whenever he rehearsed his performance, the specter of Aaron loomed larger, escalating his anxiety. What if Aaron was there, mocking his vulnerability? The thought knotted his stomach, yet it also ignited a flicker of anger within him. The desire to let go of Aaron's hold over him now morphed into a burning determination to reclaim his voice. One afternoon, as the trio assembled under the bright sun, Alex took a moment to reflect. What is the worst that could happen? He pondered aloud. His friends looked up, their brows furrowed with curiosity. "I mean, if I flub the performance, sure, it'll be embarrassing. But if I don't even try, that would be worse, right?" "Exactly," Sarah affirmed. "And think about the strength you could show by just stepping onto that stage. It's a risk, but it's yours to take." The more they spoke, the clearer it became to Alex. The showcase was not merely a platform for validation, but a foundation upon which he could build a more robust self. No longer was he merely defined by Aaron's taunts. He could shape and express his narrative, a story filled not just with struggles, but also victories, however small. As the date of the showcase approached, anxiety churned within him, yet so did an extraordinary fervor, a sense of purpose and clarity. He envisioned standing on that stage, spotlight illuminating him, sharing parts of his soul that had long been concealed. "I don't need to be perfect," he thought. "I just need to be real." But the question remained. Would the courage that had begun to blossom within him withstand the inevitable confrontation with Aaron? With that uncertainty unfurling in the depths of his mind, Alex rehearsed one last time, the words echoing louder than the pounding of his heart. "This is my moment," he declared internally, drenched in anticipation for what lay ahead. As he stepped into a stillness containing infinite possibilities, the stakes felt higher than ever. What awaited him at the showcase would not only test his resolve, but might also ignite the kind of change he had been yearning for. Could he finally defy his fears and carve a path towards reclaiming his narrative? The day of the talent showcase arrived, the air crackling with excitement and tension. Alex stood backstage, the vibrant sounds of laughter and applause layered on top of his relentless heartbeat, a cacophony of exhilaration and anxiety. The prospect of sharing his narrative, the culmination of weeks of introspection and vulnerability, felt like both an empowering leap and a perilous gamble. Before him lay a stark contrast to his previous self, and Alex tangled in self-doubt, longing for validation while subsisting within a safety cocoon woven from fear. Today, he was determined to present not merely his story, but the essence of resilience that thrummed beneath his skin, a reflection of overcoming adversities and embracing his identity. He clutched tightly to the pages of his speech. Their weight now felt as a shield, a testament to the work he had put in and the support he had received from Emma and Sarah. As the announcer called his name, a wave of trepidation washed over him. He took an intentional breath, envisioning the courage he had managed to summon amidst the whirlwind of emotions. This was not about setting himself apart from Aaron or seeking revenge. It was about affirming himself, staking his rightful claim to a narrative swirling with authenticity. With each step toward the stage, Alex absorbed the energy of the audience. Faces lit with anticipation urged him forward. The bright spotlight flooded his vision, momentarily blinding him. But as he steadied himself, the darkness peeled away, revealing the welcoming faces of classmates and teachers who genuinely wanted to hear him speak. "I appreciate the opportunity to share my story," he began, his voice quaking slightly, but laced with conviction. "Today, I'm here not just to talk about fears and the weight they carry, but about the courage it takes to confront them." He smoothed the pages, grounding himself in his purpose. "Fear doesn't define us. It's a component of our journey." The words flowed with newfound clarity, resonating throughout the auditorium. Alex spoke of ancient stories, of emperors unseen and unrecognized, drawing parallels to his own journey. He recounted moments time spent in the library, researching figures whose voices had been muffled, challenging the forgotten narratives. Each anecdote stitched seamlessly into his unfolding identity, fortifying his confidence. He lifted his gaze, daring to lock onto familiar faces, witnessing Emma's encouraging smile and Sarah's nod of solidarity. Their presence anchored him, propelling his narrative. He articulated the importance of connection, not merely for himself, but for everyone who had felt marginalized. "We all share invisible battles," he proclaimed, heart swelling with every beat. Then, he forged into the depths of vulnerability, speaking candidly about the bullying he endured from Aaron. "For far too long, I let fear dictate who I could be. I hid behind walls of insecurity, believing that I had to combat my battles alone." He paused, summoning the resolve to confront the shadows still looming in the corners of his mind, the insidious voice of oppression. "But standing here today, I refuse to be defined by my fears or by those who attempt to diminish me. I am not just a target. I am a warrior, deserving of respect and recognition." As his words reverberated through the space, Alex noticed the shifting demeanor in the audience, frown lines softening, breaths held. He had unlocked their attention. They were no longer passive observers, but participants in his journey, witnesses to his triumph. His finale arrived, charged with cathartic intensity. It's our responsibility to forge kindness over cruelty, to create a narrative where everyone is acknowledged, where everyone has a voice. So I dare us all to share our stories, however messy, however flawed, because that is where true strength lies. The applause erupted like a symphony, enveloping him in warmth. Alex knew then that he had transcended the mere act of speaking. He had forged connections that would resonate beyond a singular moment. He stepped back, taking in the raucous endorsement with a sincere smile. Recognizing the value of his authenticity, as he exited the stage, elation coursed through his veins, intertwining with the shadows of uncertainty that had followed him for so long. This victory was not singular. It was a communal triumph, one born of connection, courage, and newfound affirmation. He had faced Aaron's shadow, but more importantly, he had embraced his own light. Later that day, as he mingled with Emma and Sarah among classmates, he felt a transformation echoing within him. He wasn't merely Alex the historian. He was Alex the storyteller, emboldened by the courage to rewrite his identity amidst adversity. The fears that had threatened to suffocate him had, instead, ignited a passionate determination to advocate for himself and others in the coming days. He would confront Aaron again, not as the timid boy who once feared his disdain, but as a confident individual who understood the inherent value of authentic connection. This journey was far from over, but with each step into his truth, he recognized that he had the ability to conquer the loudest criticisms, including those he had placed upon himself. His story was still being written, layered, intricate, alive, and it brimmed with the promise of countless untold adventures, underpinned by the newfound strength of claiming his narrative. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these narratives reach those who truly need them. Comment below your reactions and predictions about Alex's journey, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration to overcome their own battles. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to engage.